Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, visiting with Mike Clark. He's from the Canton Charge. Good morning.
Good morning, Susie.
How fun is it that we've got professional basketball right here in our community?
Oh, it's fantastic. And I believe it's one of Canton's best kept secrets. It's no longer a secret. You know, it's great. The last 5 seasons I've been with the Charge since our inception, you see the growth. Every season, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I'm out in the community speaking with lots of folks, first couple seasons, I felt like I had to explain who the Canton Charge are, what the NBA Developmental League is, and how it pertains to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now I find myself in the last 2 or 3 seasons not having to do that as much, or if at all anymore. I feel like the last few 2 or 3 seasons, we've definitely made a pretty big impact on the community and have grown our brand, and the awareness is out there. And people are starting to really get behind what we're doing down there at the Civic Center.
Yes, right. And when you talk about D-League or Developmental League, what is that for someone who still doesn't know?
Okay, well, I always like to point to, say, Major League Baseball and the minor league system with Major League Baseball. And in minor league baseball, or Major League Baseball, you have the Cleveland Indians, for instance, here, our local team, and they have 3 minor league affiliates. They have a AAA team in Columbus, the Clippers, and they have their AA team right here in Akron, the Rubber Ducks, and then they have an A team up in Lake County, the Captains. So to go to the basketball side, what we are to the Cavaliers would be like the Columbus Clippers to the Cleveland Indians. These are the best players in the world that aren't playing in the NBA. And a lot of these guys, they come from major collegiate programs, Duke University, Syracuse, all of the powers, and from smaller schools as well. And these are guys that have the opportunity that they're just maybe one injury away from making an NBA club, or a couple solid performances from catching the eye of an NBA general manager. And we're at a point now with the NBA Developmental League that we have about 40% of the players in the NBA right now have experience playing in the NBA Developmental League.
That's so cool.
So it's very cool.
Is it beneficial to be Developmental League for a world championship team, or would it be better for a guy who wants to actually get picked up by the pros?
Sure.
And they are pros as well.
Yes, yes.
But they call it the show, I guess, in
That's
baseball.
Correct. That's correct,
So
yeah.
if they're going to get picked up and get to play where we really get to know them, like with LeBron and so forth,
Right.
Is it better to be with a team that's not quite as good as the Cavs?
Well, that's a variable for every team. For instance, the Cleveland Cavaliers right now have a very veteran-laden team. They're a championship caliber team, and they're defending world champions, obviously. So there isn't a lot of opportunity for a young player to have a lot of time to play.
Right.
With obviously LeBron James playing
Yes.
40 minutes a night, and Kyrie Irving,
Right.
he's a young fella, and he can play 35, 40 minutes a night, and the stakes are fairly high. So a team like the Cavaliers right now don't have a whole lot of opportunity to develop young talent. So that makes the Canton Charge all the better.
Good.
So for instance, we have up in for the Cavaliers this year, it was a second-round draft pick that we traded for named Kay Felder. And he has been with us on a couple of different occasions this year. Just to come that he's a great young player, 5'8", just a little guy,
Wow,
but
yeah.
extremely athletic and explosive, and a lot of fun to watch play. And so what happens is, he doesn't get a whole lot of time to show his abilities on the court in Cleveland, because he's behind a couple players on the depth chart, so to speak. So he gets to come down to Canton and get a 30 or 40 minute night under his belt, get his wind, get his shots up, and it works out great. And you saw it firsthand a couple months ago. He came down in December. He hadn't played for the Cavs in about 2 weeks, and he came down. He played for us. He played I think 30 some minutes, and he scored 33 points in his Canton Charge debut.
Whoa.
And then the very next night, the Cavs had a game, I believe it was against the Charlotte Hornets, and Kay got in for the first time in a long time, and he ended up having 12 points that night, and he played with a lot of confidence. And after the game, he said, my experience last night in Canton, gave me a lot of confidence, and I felt like I didn't have cold feet getting into the game. I just got a game under my belt in Canton, and like I said, going back to the talent, it's really unbelievable what you're seeing, as well as the NBA pulling our players from the NBA Developmental League, but a lot of the powerhouses over in Europe look to the NBA Developmental League for talent as well. And we had a gentleman this year start the season with us, one practice, and then he got called over. He signed a contract with FC Barcelona, which is one of the premier places to play in all of basketball outside the NBA. So that works out great too, because you can make a wonderful career playing overseas. So the NBA Development League is not just for necessarily the NBA dream, but it's to further your career on a global scale, and it's a springboard for these fellas.
Yes, and they don't necessarily then get picked up by the Cavs. They could get picked up by numerous different people.
That's correct, and that's a benefit and an advantage for our players, and that's a little bit different than, say, that minor league baseball comparison. If you play for the Clippers or the Rubber Ducks, you're a Cleveland Indians property. You're property of the Indians. So, the Indians, they have Francisco Lindor at young shortstop. If you're a shortstop in the minor league system right now, you're going, I better change positions because I think Francisco is going to play there for the next 20 years, right? So, what's nice about the NBA Development League is the majority of the players, unless they are on assignment and sent down by an NBA team, they are free to be picked up by any NBA team. And here in Canton, we've had 3 or 4 players, 5 players be called up to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wow. What was a team with the Brooklyn Nets, the Charlotte Hornets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Toronto Raptors. So we've had guys go all over. As well, we've had 2 assignments up to the Cleveland Cavaliers as well in the past.
Tell me who Quinn Cook is and all about him.
Oh, Quinn Cook is a joy to watch. Quinn Cook came to us last year after a very highly decorated 4-year career at Duke University, where he was a 4-year starter, and his senior year won the national championship. And he was a team MVP for them, voted team MVP. Wow. And that was pretty impressive because they had 4 other guys go in the NBA draft that year in the first round, the 4 other starters. And for whatever reason, Quinn went undrafted. And it was a surprise to a lot of folks.
How would that happen?
Good question. Very good question. It's a question for 30 general managers in the NBA, and they might all have their reasons. But so Quinn came to us. Yeah, he was signed by the Cleveland Cavaliers for training camp last year, and he was a star in training camp. He got an opportunity to play a lot of minutes for the Cavs, and was the last cut for the Cavaliers. Oh. He was very close to making the team. So he decided, hey, I'm right on the cusp of making the NBA. Yeah. That's his dream. So he said, well, you know what, I'll go down and play in Canton. And it's a really neat story. His family, his father is from Cleveland, and he has a lot of family ties in this area, although he grew up in Washington, D.C. and went to high school ended up going to high school in Virginia. Oh, okay. But he has a lot of family here. So it was almost like a homecoming of sorts for him. So the transition was great, and the comfort level was there with his family close by. And he hit the ground running from day one last year, and ended up being the last season's Rookie of the Year. Awesome. And then he was fantastic. And now this year he came back. He went to NBA training camp with the New Orleans Pelicans, and it was the same thing. It came down to 2 players, and he was the last cut. And we were for certain that he would latch on down there in New Orleans. But that wasn't the case, and obviously we were thrilled to have him back. Yes. He currently sits at number 2 in the NBA D League in scoring. He was just named to his second All-Star game, so he will be heading to New Orleans, ironically, for All-Star Weekend to perform in the All-Star game, and he has a very good chance of being a league MVP as long as our record keeps soaring like it is as of late. He's one of the most notable guys in the league, a poster boy, so to speak, because everyone that comes from Duke that plays well there ends up being a household name. Here's a kid in college that played in 20,000-seat arenas, a national championship game in front of, I think, 40,000. So, there's no stage too big for him. But he's a guy that at any moment I feel like my phone's going to go off and we're going to get the message that and the great news that he finally has gotten his call up to the NBA, because it's much deserved. And we'll take that with the Canton Chargers a win, just as important as wins in the win column. Developing a player and getting him to go to the NBA and thrive and prosper is just as good as, say, maybe winning the NBA D-League championship this year.
You have to be a little unselfish about that, don't you? Because I love that attitude, that we take that as much as a win, as if he'd stay with us and win the whole thing.
Right, and that's been our unfortunate downfall the past 3 seasons. We have made the playoffs. We're the only team in the NBA Development League to make the playoffs of the past 5 seasons. Unfortunately, what has happened the last 3 seasons is we've had at least 2 players called up to the NBA in the last week of the season.
Wow.
And they're always obviously our best players.
Well, sure.
So the guys that are getting us there, doing the heavy lifting, so to speak, and helping us get to the playoffs, aren't there to see the job through. And it's really unfortunate.
And were they getting called up by the Cavs? Or all different people?
Last year we had a gentleman, John Holland, who's back with us this year. He got called up to the Boston Celtics, and ironically, he played in the first round of our playoffs and knocked out the Boston's developmental league team, and he averaged 30 points a game between the two. And Boston took notice and called him up, and then that was unfortunate. we had a pretty big hole to fill with John missing there, and in the years past we had 2 years ago, I thought we had a chance to win the whole thing. We were really cooking, and we had Jorge Gutierrez, who's
I remember
people
him.
familiar with the Canton Chargers
Yes.
love Jorge. He's one of our most popular players of all time.
Yes.
He was called up in the last week to the Charlotte Hornets, and we also had, the Milwaukee Bucks, and then we also had Arenzo Nwaku, who was just a mountain of a man, went to Syracuse University, another powerhouse. He was called up to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then our leading scorer at the time, Brandon Paul, tore his shoulder, all in the same day. So we had two call-ups and a torn shoulder all on the same day. So that was our 3 leading scorers, our arguably our 3 best players, and we lost them all on the last day of the season. And valiant effort in the postseason to make it run. We got out of the first round even without those guys, but it was just too late in terms of getting the guys all on the same page. But that's
But I love that you keep in mind that the ultimate goal is the development of these players, not necessarily winning.
That's right.
We
got to remember why we're here. It's to help these kids, and they're kids. I got to remind myself that.
Yes.
These guys are fresh out of college. I'm 30 years old, and and I start to feel old around some 21, 22-year-old. But
Yes.
the whole job is to make sure they come in, and if they start with us in November when our season starts, we want to make sure that they get a little bit. Our former coach Jory Fernandez said, "I want you to get 1% better every day, because if you're getting better every day, at the end of the year, you're going to be a whole new player, and the endless opportunities in front of you in terms of where you want to go with your career." So that's our MO.
You said the word former coach. You've got a new head coach this year, Nate Ranking. Tell us about him.
Oh, Nate. Nate is a local boy here in Northeast Ohio, in Ohio. He's from Gallion, which is down south towards the Columbus area.
Sure.
But some folks might remember he was a Kent State graduate. He played 4 years at Kent State. He's in all over the record books for the Kent State Golden Flashes. And after his playing career was over at Kent State, I believe in 1998 he graduated. I don't want to date him; he'll be upset with that. But he played for about 14, 15 seasons in Great Britain and gained dual citizenship. And a really neat story about Nate is after he played there for so long and gained dual citizenship, he was able to make the Great Britain national team. And in 2012, when the Olympics were in London, he got to go up in an exhibition game when they did their scrimmages before it all starts.
Cool.
Against Team USA, and so I have all these pictures in the office, and he's very humble and gets embarrassed by it. But pictures of him guarding Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Kevin Durant and Russell, Russell Westbrook, the who's who, the Mount Rushmore of the NBA right now.
Right.
And there's all these pictures of Nate guarding these guys, and he's very humble, and he doesn't like to talk about his successes over there necessarily. But I like to brag for him, and he had a fantastic playing career overseas, and then he's still a part of the Great Britain national coaching staff, which is fantastic. And he moved back here about 4 years ago after his playing career was 2012.
Right.
So actually, we're going on 5 years.
Going
or
on
so.
5 years.
Yeah, and got hired by the Canton Chargers. He spent 3 years as an assistant coach under 2 different coaches that we've had. And this offseason, our former head coach, Jory Fernandez, went to the Denver Nuggets. We're elated for him. Very well deserved to go to the NBA. And we had to fill that void, and there was a lot of familiarity there with Coach Ranking as an assistant coach for the past 3 years. He's been wildly successful as an assistant. both former head coaches we had that were hired or that were his boss, so to speak.
Right.
Just raved about him. So it was a seamless fit. And he stepped in this year. And as an organization, we haven't skipped a beat. We're cooking along just like we normally do.
Absolutely. Is the Development League considered developmental for coaches as well as players?
Coaches are using it the same way the players are. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's a lot of folks, a lot of coaches that use this as a springboard. Every coach is a little bit different. They might have different paths they want to take in coaching. You don't always have to become a head coach. There's a lot of guys like to get in the player development side, which those are guys, if you go up to maybe a Cavs game or you come to a Charge game and you're there about, say, an hour early, there's a lot of coaches rebounding with the guys and working with the guys on the court. Player development, that's some guys' passion. Some guys want to be head coaches, and absolutely, if you build your resume in the NBA Developmental League, you can make way. The head coach of the Utah Jazz right now, Quinn Snyder, is a prime example. He's a gentleman that was a head coach in the NBA Developmental League. Now he has one of the most exciting young teams in the NBA. So, yes, it is the same route these guys take as the players to become a coach in the NBA as well.
Very cool. We're visiting with Mike Clark. He is from the Canton Charge. Going to take a short break. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.